The Sunday Scaries, overcoming the dread of Monday's toxic job. If you're watching this right now and you are literally sitting there dreading going to your job tomorrow, you are in the right place. That used to be me every Sunday at 5 p.m. Pacific time. I used to experience the Sunday Scaries. So that is why now I come on live every Sunday at 5. So this is my healing now that I've left a toxic job. So I'm so glad that you're here. You're going to learn from actually three Black women, because I'm going to share two. You're going to learn from three Black women about overcoming the Sunday Scaries so that you are not dreading any day of your life, because that is a miserable existence to dread any day of your life. If you don't know me already, I'm Dr. Kamani. I'm a licensed clinical psychologist, a toxic job survivor, but more importantly, I'm a toxic job liberator for Black women. You may have seen me about 15 minutes ago because I was on live with Apryl and a number of other Black women talking about purchasing the replay of the Job Liberation Virtual Summit for Black women, which is May 18th and 19th. We had over 300 Black women in attendance. It was so powerful. So get the replay if you're trying to figure out, you're trying to get prepared about how to leave that job, but you don't know how. You will learn how to get your exit plan ready, how to replace your income. So I'll put that information on the screen. So I'm going to turn it over to my guests to introduce themselves, and then we'll get started into the conversation. So Apryl, if you can get started, please.
Of course. Hello, everyone. My name is Apryl Thatch. I am otherwise known as Positively Pryl. And I am also, you already know what I'm going to say, I'm also a raggedy toxic job survivor and thriver, actually. And
I like that.
I have been on my healing journey, my path to self-discovery, as I call it, from burnout, conditioning, and just some of the ways that I ended up in that position. And as I mentioned, healing from them. And on my channel, we celebrate those things. We focus on self-prioritization, guilt-free self-prioritization, and my adventures. I almost slipped up, Dr. Kamani, and said something, but okay.
Oh, okay. So
I gotta save
Apryl, Apryl was our moderator for the Job Liberation Virtual Summit for Black women. So then we also have a new guest, Shauna. Shauna, can you introduce yourself, please? You're on mute right now.
Okay, hi everyone. My name is Shauna Howard, and I too am of the tribe that is raggedy, toxic job survivors. But I embrace it. I'm so glad that you said that, Apryl. But I also realize that that's the conditioning. That's how we have been made to feel about not fitting into the status quo. I'm so excited to be able to for you, Dr. Kamani, to invite me to do this. I really thought about all of this ever since we met and was talking about the work that you do. I'm like, oh my God, I think every job that I've had has been toxic to my Black womanhood. So let's get into it. Yes.
Let's get into it. Let's talk about it, okay? Yeah. So many Black women have reached out to me and said, thank you so much for talking about this, because we don't talk about it enough. Many of us have had more than one toxic job experience. So my channel talks about it very openly. And I talk to any Black woman, wherever you are on the continuum. You are thinking about, you don't like this job, to I absolutely can't stand it, to you've already left. So my YouTube channel is to support all Black women. And my hope is that by watching my YouTube channel, by me sharing about my own healing journey of leaving a toxic job, you hearing from other Black women, you learning about the virtual summit, all these things, that you know that you have options. You don't have to stay in a toxic job, because that's the part that can be so harmful, is when you start feeling alone and there's no way out. There is a way out. There is a way out, okay? So we're going to start talking about the Sunday Scaries. So because, these multiple job experiences, we're going to pick one, okay? So if both of you can talk about one job experience that you've had that contributed to the Sunday Scaries, what was it? What was happening? And what did the Sunday Scaries look like for you? Apryl, let's start with you.
What did they look like? Oh man,
Well,
my chest.
can you tell us just a summary of what was the issue at the job? What made it toxic? And then what were the Sunday Scaries like for you?
Well, what made it toxic is just kind of the nature of the beast, the corporate structure that exists. And I know when we say corporate, maybe that might bring to mind being in an office setting or something a little bit more like polished. But that can happen whether you work, as a landscaper, whether you're fast food, as mentioned by Shauna, and as mentioned during the summit, by the nature of us being Black women, we are already, at a disadvantage. And there's already a lot of, I don't even want to say stereotypes, because I think that is too high level. There are some systemic, again, mentioning conditioning and some ways that people have been raised for generations and generations to see Black people as inferior, to see themselves as superior. And so for me, being in a high level position, having checked off all of the Black excellence boxes, and being in that position where I felt that I should be grateful to even be there. I should feel blessed to have this good job. And that was directly contradicting with me saying, on the inside, everything in me was screaming like, I don't want to be here. These people are treating us bad. But the kind of the overruling thought was automatically to say something, to myself, but as you should be grateful. You should be blessed. Do you remember when you didn't have this opportunity? And what do they call it? Self-gaslighting.
Self-gaslighting, yes.
Again, because of the conditioning. So for me, speaking of conditioning, Sundays are wash days in my world and for my hair. And I remember I would be thinking about that as I was washing my hair, as I'd be conditioning it. And it was almost like that was the sign that it is Sunday. And once I'm done with this, I'm going to eat dinner. And I'm typically, getting in my Sunday evening routine. And when I wake up, I'm going to have to go back there. Now, keep in mind, I typically worked on the weekends as well. So I would hop on for a little bit on Saturday. I'd hop on for a lot of it if I had the nerve to do something on Saturday. And that, took away from my work time. So many times I would be working, kind of avoiding, washing my hair, because again, that was a sign that this is, what's getting ready to come. And the thing,
like, you're about to get it, right?
Right. Like I call it the whooping feeling.
Yes. Oh, that dread. Oh God, that terrible dread.
When I get home. Yes. Like that, just your stomach knots up and fearful. But that's really what it is. It's a trauma response. It's a fear response. I was not safe. I didn't realize that that what I was experiencing was that emotional, the lack of emotional safety and security.
Yes.
And I just felt constantly in fear. And that's what they do, and I just mean period in the corporate structure is we are scared to lose that job. And as Black women, we have worked so hard to get into these positions that, it is already ingrained in us to fear that being taken away. So that was my experience. Sometimes I couldn't eat dinner. I would stay up really late on Sundays. I didn't realize what it was. I've said, I usually have insomnia on Sundays. But looking back, it was because
not making that connection.
Yeah, like as soon as I closed my eyes and went to sleep, when I wake up, I have to, go back to this dreaded place. Yeah.
So many things. I'm gonna get to you in a minute, Shauna. So one is you talked about the societal structure, and I'm so glad you talked about that, because when we think about our experiences in jobs as Black women, we have to deal with racism and sexism, and not just from white people, right? So from anybody who engages in white supremacist behaviors, they could be another Black person, they could be another Black woman. So for us to be clear about that. Then you also talked about not having that psychological safety. And I think a lot of us have that. We go in the workplace and we're like on guard the whole time. So we're masking all day at work because we know people are coming for us, or there's something that's not quite right, that sickness in your stomach. Then you also talked about the golden handcuffs. So on some level, the job might be sending a message to you. You should be lucky you had this job, right? You should be lucky you're here. And we may be in some ways seduced by the financial gain, right? So making the money. So then we might think, wait, this is a good job. Like, I'm making a lot of good money. I got good benefits. Like, why would I want to leave this job? But again, I'm quoting Stephanie Perry, a job is not a good job if it's harming you, if it's killing you. And if you're accessing your so-called good healthcare benefits because the job is making you sick, that's not a good job either. Okay. So thank you for sharing that. What about for you, Shauna? Can you share with us about one of the toxic jobs? What was going on that made it toxic? And what did the Sunday Scaries look like for you?
I remember when I was younger, there's two instances that come to mind for me. Number one, growing up in the South, I'm born and raised North Carolina, grew up in the South, grew up going to church all day on Sundays, all day, if not every day of the week, but all day on Sundays, definitely. I always looked at Sundays as the day of healing, as the day of rest. But I just remember being on punishment a lot on Sundays, like not being able to rest on Sundays. Mm-hmm. I remember that was a day of of just punishment, I would say. Mm-hmm. So Sundays were for me as a child, just going back to my childhood, already scary. Mm. And I grew up in a predominantly white neighborhood. So I went to a predominantly white school. I was the only Black girl, if not the only Black person in most of my classes. Mm-hmm. And so I was an anomaly culturally walking into school. So there was already the barrier of the armor, that I put on to try to defend whatever was going to come my way come Monday morning, whether it was from the administration, the staff, or classmates, right? Mm-hmm. And I remember that. I just don't ever remember Sunday being a happy day for me unless I was singing in church, unless I had the solo in church, unless I was able to escape and just be in flow or be in a zone in some creative way. And it coincidentally was on a Sunday. And so as an adult now, I've been a musician for most of my adult life, a professional musician for most of my adult life. And I recently became athletic during the pandemic. So Sundays for me are my play days. Sundays, I don't care where I am. I don't care what I do. For the longest time, I have always dedicated Sundays to fun days. So Sunday Fun Day is my hashtag. Mm-hmm. But I do remember a job. I mean, I've had, like I said in my intro, I've had plenty of jobs that were toxic, that it felt like I couldn't show up as my dignified self. I couldn't show up with the dignity of just being a human being. And expecting to not to be, put on some pedestal of humanity or anything like that, but I always felt like I had to fight to just be seen as human, as a human being. Mm-hmm. And that's the part that for me, that made it feel toxic. Yeah. Where I had to accept that toxicity. But I also tether it back to childhood, tether it back to the toxicity of the white Christian church, tether it back to these traditions that I was a part of as a young person that never centered my humanity as a Black woman. And so it was this learned toxicity that I grew to accept until I realized as an adult, no, I don't have to put up with that.
Yeah. I don't want to live like this.
I don't have to live like that.
Yes.
And I'm willing to take a pay cut, or I'm willing to leave that relationship, or I'm willing to leave that. I can make my own this. I can do my own this.
Options.
Once I realized what my options were.
Yes.
And was brave enough to actually set forth and do and live in those options.
Mm-hmm.
Then I was able to kind of have a bird's eye view on what toxicity looked like, and really be able to care for that, Shauna.
Yes. Yes.
So yeah, I mean, I can talk about many jobs that I've had, many consulting gigs that I've had that were toxic. But for me, it was twofold. It was growing up in the church, in a Southern Baptist church, or just in Christianity in general. But then also working in a corporate setting, like you said earlier, where I just felt like my dignity was not honored. But then I also realized that in corporate America, no one's dignity is honored.
That too, right? That too, right? That's part of the culture. So when I talk about
part of the culture,
I say it's the whole culture. It's not just one person, or it's the whole culture is toxic. And Shauna, I really appreciate what you talked about dignity, because when we think about going into a workplace, many times as Black women, we are overqualified because it's not easy usually for us to get these jobs, right? Like we have to be overly qualified, but we're sent the message that we're not good enough, right? That we have to constantly prove ourselves. And I did a video, I think 2 weeks ago or last week, was it last week? I can't remember, talking about we are more than enough. So even though people might try to tell us you're not enough, no, we are more than enough, right? So Shauna, you talked about reclaiming Sunday. So now Sunday is your fun day. Oh, yeah. How did you get to that point? Because again, a lot of Black women, while they're in toxic jobs, it's dread day, right? So for me, it was 5 o'clock. Some Black women I hear as soon as Sunday starts, right? How did you do that? How did you reclaim Sundays? Was it after you left the toxic job? Were you still in the toxic job? How did you do that?
So I've had a number of consulting positions where I'm in a toxic environment. And I've also had jobs, of course, where I've been in a toxic environment. And some of them I had the Sunday Scaries in, and some of them I was like, Sunday fun day, bump all this. Mainly because maybe I wasn't working on that Monday. So I had that day off. I had that buffer between, Sunday and the beginning of my work week. So for example, as a classical musician, my rehearsals started on maybe Tuesday or Wednesdays. So I didn't have to deal with toxicity of going into, all rehearsal spaces where they might be toxic until Wednesday evening, Thursday evening. So I had a little bit of buffer. I was doing my own work, and then I would go into these spaces where I was consulting or performing in those spaces. I just remember feeling like, okay, in a corporate, and I use that word corporate loosely, in a corporate setting, the Westerners know that Sunday is the day of rest. And so if that is how we are supposed to view Sunday, then what does rest look like for me? Rest is, I could sleep in late. Okay, yeah. But I still got to get ready for work on Monday. I'll get ready for the gig on Monday, or, get ready to even just start working for myself on Monday. The emails are going to come in, start 5 a.m. The dings are going to start coming in. I just got tired of it. I was just like, if the world gets to rest because of Jesus on Sundays, then, and if I was made in his image, I think, then I'm gonna try resting on Sundays too. And again, resting for me wasn't just going to sleep or sleeping in, or it was reclaiming, as you said, Dr. Kamani, it was reclaiming Sundays. I was miserable. Like I didn't want to. I would lose out on so much money or so many opportunities, all because I don't want to deal with that woman that wants to reduce me to less than human. I didn't want to deal with that dude that wanted to flirt and sexually harass in order to get his point across for, being the manager or whatever the case. Like anything that diminished my dignity, I just did not want to have to fight one more battle, one
Yeah.
more time, one
Yeah.
more thing again and again and again. And so sometimes I would just not take the contract because I just didn't want to put up with it.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I would take the contract, but I would show up with a stank attitude.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew that was on me. Come at me if you want to. Come take it from me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then there were some instances that I would be straight up like honest. Hey, y'all, I know you're talking to a dark-skinned Black woman here. And of course, that puts them on edge. Like, oh, why is this racial? Why is this political? Because it is. Because it is.
It's everywhere. Yeah.
Because it's everywhere. Because it's systemic. Because it's the system that we live under. And in everything that you do, you're going to expect me to be the one that reproduces the most. And you're going to expect me to be the biggest laborer because you're going to see me as the workhorse.
Yep.
You see me as the workhorse. Yep. And because I'm so grateful, like you said earlier, I'm so grateful to have the job. Oh, I'll do anything. I'll take that extra project. I'll do it. Let everybody know that I'm a hard worker. I'm a team player. And they just see the labor.
Yeah.
They don't see the dignity.
Yeah.
And they don't see the dignity because they don't see it within themselves.
And they have been conditioned to not see us as humans. Like you said, they see us as workhorse or only in service of them.
Right.
Like we're not real people. And I think, and I could hear like in your voice, I could hear it when you talked about, I'm sick of it, right? And I think a lot of us are so sick of dealing with this crap because we go through so much as Black women in general, right? Just trying to live in society. But then we come into the workplace, we have to deal with so much mess, right? So we have to contort ourselves. We have to constantly tone police ourselves. We have to constantly shrink. We have to constantly do these things that it gets to a point, calling out Fannie Lou Hamer, one of my sheroes, we get sick and tired of being sick and tired. And when you're under this constant stress called allostatic load, you just like, I'm just done. I'm done, right? And so it sounds like that's what's happened for you, Shauna. You were like, I'm removing myself from this situation because I want to reclaim my life and my Sundays, right? Okay, good. What about for you, Apryl? What was it like? Like, how were you able to reclaim your Sundays?
Okay, well, before I get into that, Shauna, our stories are so much alike, and then I become like your opposite. My sister and I integrated the school district. So this was in the 80s, like you know what I mean? Like the mid 80s, we integrated the school district when we moved to this white, like lily all white city. I never felt like I fit in, even within my family. My sisters were a lot more like my mother. And I was a lot like my dad, who was just almost like Jerry Lewis character, super intelligent, but just like a weirdo, you know, goofball, unintentionally like Mr. Magoo. I was never like that. I'm a blend between my mother and my father, but I just never felt like I fit in. And so I learned quickly to, also because of the dynamic in our household, I learned that if I just stay quiet, if I kind of shrink into the corner, that I will be able to at least prolong suffering some wrath. And that carried over into school again. Like my sisters are all very, very fair skinned. You know, when you see me, you see like I'm Black. They looked, oh, are you Mediterranean or are you Italian or, you know, something like that. But I'm, you know, like I look Black. And that just carried throughout my life. I wanted to not have attention. I wanted to blend in. I changed my voice to accommodate other people. I have a voice that typically when I speak, people, you know, I've had this voice since I was a toddler, seriously, and I'm not being hyperbolic. And so I learned, let me change my voice. Let me smile, because I learned that at home. You smile, you better not this, you better not, you know, go out of this house and do that. So I learned how to mask very early. And I spent my entire childhood and formative years and my entire career as an adult up to a certain point, doing everything I could to go unnoticed and blend in. So that's why I'm saying you, Shauna, you were, and I'm paraphrasing, of course, but you were like, I do deserve to be here. And I deserve to be treated, with respect, with dignity. And even though they didn't see your dignity, or they didn't acknowledge or recognize it, for me, I knew those things, but I just want to do my work and leave. I just want to blend in with my hair pulled back, with me wearing, the corporate uniform, blue, black, white, things like that. Because I did feel like I knew that they didn't want me there. So if they ask me to do things, I'll do it. I'll even volunteer. I call it volunteering for work, but I would proactively, because I know they're going to give it to me anyway. So I might as well raise my hand. I'll do it because I know that that's coming. And in some way, I wanted to prove that I deserved to be there through my work output, even though, like I said, I knew that they didn't want me there. And frankly, I knew that I didn't belong there. I'm not meant to work for other people long term. I'm just not. And if I would have been if I would have been raised in different ways, yeah, I'm just not, and that's okay. But it was not okay. Being on the college prep track, being, the product of two parents with advanced degrees who were the first to attend college in their families, just this legacy that I inherited, which, as Stephanie says, it's a fruit from the slavery tree. I inherited those baskets of just rotten fruit and never even bothered to look in there. I'm just lugging it around, but I never even bothered to peer in there. So to answer your question, how did I get to where Sundays and the Sunday Scaries went away? I had everyday scaries. So it started with Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Whenever it started, it was that day. Because when I left corporate, or I ran off, as I say, but when I left corporate abruptly, as in got in my car and peeled out the parking lot and never went back. But when I did that, I felt the first thing I felt was something is missing. And then the next instant feeling was I'm doing something wrong. Like I really felt like, again, the whooping feeling, like I'm going to get in trouble for this. Those were the primary thoughts, not this is what's best for me. This is what I needed. Those came later. But my initial thoughts were, this just feels wrong. And I feel like I'm doing something wrong. Like I'm going to get in trouble. So, like I said, to answer your question, it started with whatever day I realized that I need to get through. I got through the morning, I got through the afternoon. Sometimes it was like every other minute by minute. Sometimes it was hours. And then eventually it became days. And eventually it was like, like with any other thing that you move past, that you, confront and you work
it's a process.
Move on from it. Yeah, it was. But, now to that same token, every day for me is, how you said like Sunday, Monday, every day is that. Every day now for the past about 5 years, I tend to discover or have a thought that I can do what I want, like.
You claimed your life back, right?
Yeah.
Apryl, you said a number of things I wanted to touch upon first. You said that when you left that job, even though you knew you didn't belong there, you said that first, you knew they didn't want you there, but you felt in your gut, I don't belong here. But even when you walked away and you're like, you're like, I'm doing something wrong. And so having to challenge that and having to say, this is my life and what do I need from my life, right? Now, everybody's different. Some people are meant to work jobs, right? We're not saying nobody should work. No, we're saying for us, we've come to that realization. But you may want to stay at jobs, and that's great. That's great, as long as it's not toxic, right? You also talked about peering into the rotten fruit.
Yeah.
Girl, tell us how you did that. That was symbolic. Peering into the rotten fruit.
Okay, so
you peering into the rotten fruit like this is all rotten, this is all bad.
Yeah, like, there, okay, so I'm a very visual person. I have a peach tree that just got out of control this year. So I was constantly just picking peaches 2-3 times a day. I was a peach lady. Like, do you want peaches and roses? I have like, oh, people walking by, do you want some peaches? Do you want some roses? Anyway, but in that, there were some that maybe fell on the ground. They were bruised, but there were still parts that I could use from that, that I could cut off to use. So to answer your question, I inherited baggage. I inherited, if we're just putting things in there, I inherited fruit from my mother's different abuses that she experienced, how she learned to disassociate. So she taught us how to disassociate, the bullying that they experienced. My mother, being a Black woman that moved through life as a white woman, some of the things that she taught us to be on guard 100%. Men, like she would tell us, like, men only want you for one thing. And then I'm as my daddy calls me, I'm the brick house of the 4 daughters. So she, reinforced it even more into me. Like, they really are going to want you. That's the first thing that they're going to see. So you make sure, or they don't want you there. So blend in, because again, she was privy to just the world that us on this, I was about to say call, but us here on this live tonight, we wouldn't know, because there's nothing we could ever do to fit in, or, to be accepted into that, like, inner sanctum, I guess, of white people. But, inheriting my father and how my father was abused because he didn't fit in his family, how he was different from his siblings, also generations. My grandmother, my great grandmother was a slave. Like, this is not, so far removed. So of course there's going to be those tendencies that are passed down. And just the things that I learned along life, the people that have abused me, in all facets, the defense that you talk about, having to go in. I was playing defense and offense, and I was masking, and I was, code switching, just doing all these things, being all of these versions of myself to all these other people. But I didn't know who the hell I was. When all was said and done, I didn't know who I was. So all of my life experiences, also I was a teen mother. So my son weighed 10 pounds, 4 ounces. I wasn't even 5 feet tall. I've always looked young for my age. So I probably looked like I was about 10 years old with this big old belly. That really, so now we're talking about bringing the shame in from church. Like, okay, so I'm this horrible sinner. I literally had to sit in that corner pew on the right-hand side, last one in the back of the church. Again, the shame that it brought to my family, the shame that it brought to me as a Christian, having this child that I know I'm supposed to have, but feeling as if I used to reference myself as damaged goods, because that's what my mother told me once. Again, teaching me that I should be grateful for being seen, or people even, acknowledging me. So again, when you just pile all of those things in there, and the way that I was raised from both of my parents to fear, and you as you mentioned, like, you don't got to get ready if you stay ready. So again, playing both defense and offense. And so those things get heavy. I liken, because again, I'm a visual person. I liken all of this stuff that I've carried along. They're going to be, if you imagine at the airport, when you're going to international flights, you got those trolleys that have the luggage stacked on it. I was pushing and pulling those. I never looked in there because I was scared to, because it made me uncomfortable, because I didn't know how to unpack those things. I didn't know what was waiting on me in there. And as I mentioned, when I open some of those things, it's like all of this rotten fruit, things that are no longer of use to me, but I'm carrying them because I inherited them. Unpacking. I did so much unpacking. I did so much, like, sorting and like, does this belong here? And eventually those trolleys went down to one trolley, went down to, bag after bag, went down to, carry on, like have it in like a book bag or a knapsack. Then it went to like a fanny pack. And most recently, like I have nothing. Like,
yes.
I have baggage right now.
Right. So Apryl, okay. So you talked about basically we all have baggage, right? We all have baggage. But sometimes the baggage, if we don't look at it, it can keep us in environments that continue to harm us, right? And so the importance of looking at our baggage, looking at ways that how we were brought up, family dynamics, how that might influence us with the baggage, right? The other thing is, and I had a panel on before talking about ways that family dynamics can prime us to stay in negative, toxic work environments. You also talked about issues of like post-traumatic slave syndrome. We've never really healed from that as a people. Hurt people. And then the layers of trauma, right? So as a therapist, right, I would say that if this is you and you want to listen to this, the hope is that you are in therapy to unpack all of this baggage, right? Because it's a lot of stuff. It can keep you stuck. So not only the fears about the finances, we talked about in the Job Liberation Virtual Summit, the fears of finances, but your own baggage, all your other baggage. So I want to just share briefly how I was able to reclaim my Sundays, right? So as I've mentioned before, I took a leave of absence because I knew I had to get out of that place, right? When I took the leave of absence, I started to feel a little bit better because I knew each day I'd have to go back to that place, right? I felt a little bit better. But I was also participating in therapy. So processing the baggage and all the other things that really I was having a hard time letting go. I think I had like a little grain of hope that the job would kind of realize what they were doing to me and they were going to stop it. No, okay. I had to let that go. But also during the pandemic, we got a dog, right? So we got our first dog, and then we got another dog, and we named her Joy. And so I was very intentional about naming her Joy because I wanted to wake up to joy. So every day I would wake up to dread when I was at the toxic job. I was like, no. I'm tired of waking up to dread. I want to wake up to joy. So literally I wake up to Joy every day. She's like a ball of energy and fire and all that kind of stuff. So that's how I reclaim my Sundays. But honestly, I would say it did not happen until I was on the leave and when I finally resigned. I was not able to find a way to reclaim my Sundays while I was still at the toxic job. And I've mentioned this before, that it's very hard to heal in environments where you're continually being harmed, right? So like you said, you're on the offensive, defensive all the time. So it makes sense, right? So I want to validate if that's your experience. It makes sense that you are scared, you're fearing because you're under attack. So ladies, what would you say to a Black woman who's watching us right now? And she might be experiencing the Sunday Scaries. She might be watching this. I'm dreading going back to work. I don't know what to do. Can you please help me? What words of wisdom can you give her about the Sunday Scaries and what she could possibly do about it? I'll start with you, Shauna.
Number one, the first thing I would say is, sis, you're not alone. You're not alone. Pick up the closest rock that you can find and throw it, and you will hit another Black woman who feels everything that you can. I mean, that rock could be so small, and you will toss it, and you will find another Black woman of color who feels this way. Talk to that woman about it and make a habit of talking about this experience that you're feeling, these Sunday Scaries, with other people that are like you. If representation matters, I said this earlier today, if representation matters when it comes to, how we see ourselves in things where we need to see ourselves positively, then realistically, when it comes to healing, representation matters as well. So it matters that you have this, you are going to have these shared experiences, not only just through positive things or hopeful things, aspirational things, but things that heal you as well. So it's quite possible that you also know another woman of color, Black woman who also experiences Sunday Scaries. Number one. So there's that. Number two, similar to you meeting Joy and naming her Joy, there is something in your life in this world that brings you immense pleasure, immense joy, immense fun and life and things like that. For me, it's pretty much 5 things. I love singing, I love dancing, I love crocheting, I love riding my bike, and I love talking about love. And all of those things all my life. The bike thing just came out during the pandemic, but basically the majority of those things, I've done them all my life. Thankfully, I've been able to have a career in all 5 of those categories as well. But at the core, find a way to put those things in your calendar. So for me, I'm a cyclist. I've been a cyclist since the pandemic. Sunday mornings is a big ride. Whether it's me going out and riding by myself or me meeting up with the homies or joining a new bike club, I'm going to go find some people to ride my bike with. It's really fun for me to explore areas of the city where I've never been. But in the event that I go ride my bike in a place where I've been before, maybe I'm riding with new people. Maybe I'm riding with people that I've met before. Who knows? Who cares? I'm on my bike. That's what's most important for me. And I'm probably, once I'm done riding my bike, I'm hungry. And I want to go eat something, and I want to go eat well. Now, whether that means going to the grocery store and cooking my favorite meal, or inviting a friend over to share a meal, or we actually go get some food afterwards, whatever the case may be, I am going to treat myself food-wise, nourishment-wise, to something that I really, really enjoy. It don't have to break the bank, but it has to be healthy. At the core, it absolutely has to be healthy. Number 3, I love moving my hips. I love dancing. I love it. I have ever since I knew that it was not illegal or shameful for me to move my hips, I was doing it. I was doing it.
Yes.
I've been a salsa dancer. I've been a Latin dancer for almost the past 20 years. And so I'm grateful to have a beautiful international community where I can just pop up in any city and know the places where I can go. And there's a community there that'll support that. So on Sundays, I'm either going to go dance to some house music, or I'm going to go dance salsa. Listen, I'm going to go find a place where I can go shake my hips. Because, and I say it that way. I use that specific language intentionally. It wasn't until I got into therapy that I understood somatic healing, somatic training. Please correct me.
Somatic healing. Yes.
But
our body holds on to trauma.
Our body holds on, and specifically for women, we store so much tension in our hips. And so when you get to the point where you're moving your hips, whether it's intentionally through therapy, through exercises, or maybe it's just dancing or whatever, I love music that makes my hips move. So funk, house, salsa, Latin dance, anything where my hips have to move. And also, similar to you, sis, I was a brick house, still am a brick house. So I realized through therapy that I had some body shaming that I had internalized about my full figuredness. Oh my God, keep it covered up. Oh my God, you showing off too much. I can't help it. It's what I got. Okay. So I had to loosen that up. I had to realize that maybe was that shame that I brought on myself, or was that someone else trying to shame me or trying to keep me safe, or not keep me in some small, I don't even know how to express this, but keep me in their box. That's what it is. Keep me in their box, so that my body isn't harmed, so that my body isn't shamed. And what it ended up being was that I then took on that shame again. When stress comes about, I remember my therapist saying, when stress comes about, you're either going to fight it, you're going to fly away from it, or you're going to fawn. I think there's another one. I'm not sure, but I used to fawn all the time. Oh, it's okay. I'll pray for you. It's all right. And I'll try to do. And no, I get to be a human being too. And if my body bothers you, or if my existence bothers you, that's not my issue. My issue is my health, my wellness, my humanity, my dignity. And anything else that's similar to it. That's my responsibility. So for me, on Sundays, it is religious. When I get done with this, I'm getting ready to go take a shower. I'm going to change my clothes. I'm getting ready to hit up the house music spot. Because that's what I do. If it's not house music, it's Latin dance, it's salsa. If it's neither of those, usually I'm just hanging. I'm doing something that is joyous, something that is so yummy, because I know that tomorrow some white person is going to have a problem with the fact that I know what I'm talking about. I know that I'm going to deal with the fact that somebody is going to trip off of the fact that I'm intelligent. I know somebody is going to get weirded out by the fact that even though they might find me physically attractive, some man that I'm working with might find me attractive, that if I don't respond to that in a corporate setting, which is weird, then I'm going to be punished for that.
Yeah.
It's going to be perfectly okay that a colleague assaults me and no one does anything about it.
No protection.
No protection.
Nope. Just like we saw with Representative Jasmine Crockett, right? With Marjorie Taylor Greene. Nobody protected her.
Nobody.
They saw what was happening. Yeah.
Nobody. But God forbid if it happens to them.
Oh.
God forbid.
Oh.
Hell, heads would roll.
Right.
Heads would roll.
Right. Banned and all other kind of stuff.
So for me, I have to take all of the societal norms. I have to take all the noise of society out. And I calm myself and I think, what brings me laughter? What brings me peace? What is going to make me go to sleep with a smile on my face? What's going to make me want to wake up with a smile on my face? When I get to work in the morning and I say good morning to everybody, and if they just so happen to ask me how my weekend was, I want to be able to share not only something that brought me joy, but then be able to genuinely say, so what was your weekend like? And be really invested instead of like, okay, I gotta feel like I gotta do this banter with you and da, 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 da. I want to come from a place of authenticity. And if I can't meet you with authenticity, and if you can't respect my authenticity, 8 billion people in the world, go find somebody else.
Well, Shauna, as the Chicago native, when you said house music, I was like, what did she say?
I love house and trance.
I was like, what? Okay, so we're going to talk about that later. But the other thing that I love, because you just perked up when you talked about this, you talked about the things that bring you joy, and finding those nuggets of joy that fills you up, that you just are excited to do, is so important for us. The thing that I've encountered, Shauna, that makes me so sad is that when I talk to other Black women, therapy, coaching, and I say, what kind of things do you like to do for fun? It's like a deer in the headlights. Like they're like, well, I take care. No. What do you do for fun? Like what fills you up? What kind of things do you love to do? Crickets. This is often. And I think for a lot of us as Black women, because we're doing so much, first of all, we're exhausted. We've all talked about being in workplaces and how these things can make us exhausted, but not even feeling like we have the right to joy, or we're too busy for joy. So I appreciate how you lit up and show Black women, no, there are pockets of things that we can do. And it's essential for us in terms of our own well-being to regularly, not once a year taking a vacation, regularly schedule in time for things that bring us joy, including moving our body, because moving our body, not only do we store trauma in our bodies, so when we think about toxic work environments, it's a form of trauma. But the other thing is when you move your body, it releases hormones, which is a natural mood elevator. When you go outside to vitamin D, you ride your bike outside, natural mood elevator. So what are the things that we can do around us that maybe are not even that expensive? You don't need to pay for anything to go outside, right? But how can we incorporate those joy elements? So I so appreciate that. What about for you, Apryl?
Okay, well, again, we were getting it until certain points. Okay, so I like being by myself, and I like having that space to process. But I also was one of those women that could not answer for a while to my therapist.
Mm-hmm.
What, what do I want to do? What do I like? I couldn't even forecast, where do you see yourself? Or what do you want from, this experience? We're working with each other. I couldn't answer that because my entire life had been fulfilling other people's expectations for me. That is what my entire life had been spent doing for as long as I can remember. So again, I like to be by myself. There's a difference between being alone and lonely. And, typically, as Shauna mentioned, most Black women who have gone through the muck and come out on the other side, and that have gotten in community with other like-minded, Black women or Black women who went through something similar. We always start with "you're not alone," typically because we did feel like we were alone. For me, I did not have anyone that I could talk to in my world. The way that it was set up, when I did try to dip my little pinky toe into it, then here comes well, what about your retirement? Well, you worked so hard.
Yeah.
Like, you got 33 degrees and all these certifications. Like, you're just going to walk away from that? Apryl, I remember when you were in school and you were a single mom and, and this is something that I tell my clients, like, don't expect anybody else to be invested in your dream and in your vision. You have seen a version of yourself, or you have seen a life for yourself that has been downloaded in you. So however you believe it got there, it's there. And you tell people that you think are going to be excited for you, and then they speak through their limited view. They speak through the only thing that they've seen for themselves, which is not going to be the same, which is why, again, you have to get in community. But, getting back on track, for me, I couldn't think about that. Like I said, it was like minute by minute, day by day for me initially. And what I realized was that first is, because I'm speaking to other Black women who were a version of me or who are currently going through this, or maybe, they're just have recently stepped away from work. There is absolutely nothing wrong with you. And that doesn't mean that there's not some things that you can work on and some things that you can improve. But if you feel like you don't belong because you're not like everyone else, that's a good thing. You don't want to be like everyone else. So the first is there's nothing that's wrong with you. And also get in community. Something else that is, like I said in my poem that I wrote, for the virtual job liberation to women. Okay, I know what it is, but
the Job Liberation Virtual Summit for Black Women. Yes. So Apryl read us a beautiful, heartfelt poem at the beginning.
Yeah, and I created that from affirmations, from looking back at my journals, and just from some of the conversations that you, Marissa, and I had as we were, what your goal was and, what you wanted people to experience. So in that poem, one of the lines is, I reclaimed my narrative. It's now been redefined. And we can be anyone that we want to be. I can be one person today, and I can be a different version of myself. I can do what I want. As mentioned before, we have options. And then the last thing is sometimes I think you always have to start with yourself. No one can teach you how to celebrate yourself if you don't do it. No one can help you begin to adopt a gratitude practice or a self-love practice, or what it means to be free and liberated and how to express yourself if you are unaware of those things. So I'm gonna do a quick plug for my 10 days of gratitude for Black women. It's the only playlist on my channel, but it really helps you understand again some of the conditioning, and we can't go back. Like there's nothing we can do about it. Emotionally, we can kind of confront some of those things, but I'm not talking about that. We cannot go back. So let's let's see how we can move forward. And for some people, that happens fast. They just needed to leave that job. Like the job was seriously the issue. And maybe there's some self-work to be done, you know, after they leave there. They feel free. People like me, no. Like I had to go through several processes, but if I wish someone would have told me that the first thing I need to do is grab a hold of some affirmations. I mean, you know, I love therapy. I've been in therapy for a long, long time, and I love it. I am a huge proponent of it, and it is life-changing when you can just get these things out, especially if you've held them in for so long, and to hear and to have somebody parrot back the things that you said. When you hear them, you're like, no, I didn't say that. And then you're like, oh, snap, I did, you know? So I love, love, love therapy. But again, there is self-work that is going to happen throughout this entire process because it is a lifelong evolution and a lifelong progression. But the thing is, you're making progress. And then when you get on the other side of this thing, you know, this is what it looks like. Wild hair, you know, big smiles, house, salsa, just doing whatever we want to do.
Freedom. It's freedom.
Yeah, it's freedom. It's true freedom. And I'm learning to embrace that. That's kind of a newer thing for me. I would say in like the last 6-9 months is knowing, not hearing that I am, not working towards believing it. I know that I'm free. So now I get to revel. I get to play, you know, as you mentioned, Sunday fun day. Every day is a fun day for me because I'm free and I can do what I want and I can be whomever I want. So I just encourage that if you feel like I don't even know where to start this channel, some other people, you know, if there is someone that you know has been rooting for you, this is a good way to know of who you probably can tell in your life. If the ones who are always like, yeah, the people that know everybody at your job because you've talked to them a whole bunch about it. So they can say, no, which one is this? Such and such, here he goes. Okay. The people who tell you like, you really, really need to stop working, or you really, really need to take some time off, or to ask you those questions. What have you done that's fun lately? Or when are you going to stop blowing me off? And when are we going to hang out again? So that's a good, you know, indicator of people that you can share with. But something else too, that my therapist told me, and then I'm going to go ahead and let you jump in, Dr. Kamani. But my therapist said something that was truly profound that I share with everyone that I can, and that I still do. She said, take inventory of the people in your life.
Oh, check your circle.
Yes, that feel some type of way, basically, when you disrupt you all's routine by putting yourself first and doing things to improve yourself. There's going to be two camps. There's going to be two camps. And then like, if we're doing a Venn diagram, you got that middle section. There's going to be the ones that are like, finally, like, oh my God, I'm so happy to hear that. You deserve this. You work so hard, you do whatever. You've got the other people at the opposite who are going to pitch a fit. They're going to get attitudes. They're even going to bring up, like, maybe they'll say you're acting brand new, or well, they'll mention the old you, or well, now you're switching things up. And then there's the people in the middle that they truly love you. They, you know, like these people, they want you to be in this good space, but it scares them. And those people will come around in their own time. But there's typically going to be two camps, and shut it down. It may it feels weird, at least for me, it felt weird to like shut down relationships when nothing like bad happened. Like it's easy for us. Like if they, oh no, you came at me sideways, or I'm tired of this, or I know that we have a toxic dynamic, or I know you did something, we can rationalize that. But we struggle sometimes with stepping back from a friendship when no one did anything. But you have to fiercely protect your heart, your peace. You have to protect yourself, because during this process, you will be raw. Yeah. And I mean, like open to anything. And one word that someone says, that tone, well, could send you, you know, scurrying right back in fear. So again, I just encourage you to, you know, do some motivating of yourself, Journal if you got to sing, if you got to scream, if you have to dance,
Yes.
if you have to cry, if you got to laugh, and then you're crying and you're like, I sound crazy right now, but just make these like steps towards getting free, because it'll help now to lay that foundation to make this like, oh, it's a no-brainer now. Like, I'm excited to do these things now. So.
Yeah. And I just want to add the importance when you say check your circle, not only your friends, but also your family.
Oh, yes.
Because there might be people around you, friends, family, who project their fears onto you, and you're already scared, but then they're projecting their fears onto you. So be very mindful. And I want to quote Glamazzini. I love this quote she said. She said, check the tree before you pick the fruit. So if you're talking to people and they're miserable in their lives, they don't do things that bring them joy, all these other things, think about, do I want to share this information with them? And just be mindful and selective of what information you share. You don't have to tell everybody all your business. And I just want to just self-disclose just briefly that, and I've talked about this little bits, but not that much, that my mother was not on board with me leaving my job at all, right? So she retired from a government job, good retirement, and I had a so-called good government job. She could not wrap her mind around why I would leave this job. And I kept telling her, this is killing me, that she couldn't wrap her mind around it. She was so consumed with fear about, well, what's going to happen? Like, how would you get another job, right? That she told me, we just had this conversation yesterday, that she was angry that I had left because she was scared for me, right? And again, I left 2 years ago. I resigned from that job 2 years ago, but I knew she was angry. So I was like, okay, I cannot talk to her about this because she does not understand. So I had to spend that time talking to other people. But for her to be able to have the conversation and finally admit to me, I was angry with you because I was scared. I was scared, right? But now I see you're doing well. Okay, I'm good, right? But it's a lot that you have to go through in this journey. So as we're winding down, ladies, can you both share about services that you offer and how you can be contacted? And then before we end, I want to read our community as well. So Shauna, let's start with you.
Well, my name is Shauna L. Howard. You can find me on social media pretty easily. Just search for Shauna L. Howard. One of the things that I'm very proud to be able to say that I do is I am a consultant. I work in a number of different industries, mainly because I have certifications in applied positive psychology. So I just recently was working in a field where I was able to get certifications in anti-racism. So I love any industry where I get to collectively and individually show people how to thrive. I feel that I was put on this earth to be a happy Black woman. I guard my happiness. I don't have children. I've had dogs, but I am a fierce advocate for happiness. Not that it has to be positive all the time. Not that it has to be like this unrealistic loft pie in the sky, lofty, like everything has to be perfect or all of that. But I am a fierce advocate for my health, my wellness, my mental, my holistic health. And not only that, but making sure that the communities that are around me are also happy and healthy and thriving. I have worked in the arts industry. So again, I've said, as I mentioned earlier, I've been a classical vocalist for many, many years. I studied opera and music therapy in college. I can talk about music and the healing benefits of music for, until the cows come home. I'm also an athlete. Again, I just became a cyclist during the pandemic, and I've done a lot of fitness modeling as a result of that. And I love promoting positivity and health and wellness as an athlete. You can find me either on social media through my name, Shauna L. Howard, or most recently as Cycle Bay. So feel free to find me there. But yes, if there is, my heart goes out to Black women who are on a journey to find their joy.
Mhm.
And so when I share my joy, it is as authentic as your hand in front of your face. I don't mess around with it. I don't play around with it. I will fight you on the street, open hand, flat footed over my joy, over my
Yes.
happiness, because I
Yes.
deserve it. And it took me a lifetime. It took me a lifetime on my own through some trials and tribulations to realize that I deserve to have peace. I deserve to have happiness. I deserve to have abundance. I deserve to have these things, not because I'm a Black woman, not because I'm a woman, not because I'm Black, not because of all this, but because I'm a human being.
Yes. Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
I'm a human being. So for me, it's been easy. It's been easier for me to see this journey of healing just from a humanistic perspective. As a human being, we all get to experience abundance. We all get to experience this. And so we just start right there. So that's it. That's pretty much me. I thank you so much. Thank you.
I love the fierce defending of my joy. I love that.
Absolutely.
I love that, Shauna. I love it. So I'll put all of Shauna's information description section. So Apryl, can you share services you offer and how you can be contacted?
Sure. But you know what? I had to write something down because I used to say that I am fiercely protective about my privacy, but I'm going to change. I mean, I haven't used that in a while, but a long time, but I'm going to change that to fiercely protective of my joy, of my peace and joy, because it is not for sale. What I do say about like clients to take on, or, in the corporate sense, or, even when I got my job, I'm like, my peace is not for sale. So, but I am positively Pryl. I have a YouTube channel that is getting ready to take a little bit of what would you say, like a time jump, I guess.
I think it's allowing yourself to be vulnerable and sharing your personal journey because you know that it can help heal people.
Yes.
I think there's going to be a lot more vulnerability.
Yes. Okay. Well, thank you. I'm going to have to watch this. Where we 106.25. I'm going to have to grab that. But on my channel right now, one of the things that when I started my channel was I didn't want people to be alone. I wanted people to see themselves in me. I'm not for everyone, but for those who I was meant to speak to and speak life into and speak hope and encouragement into. And we talk about that. The first kind of chunk of videos is me talking about when I left corporate, I guess more of my journey through that process, where we are headed now, as you mentioned, Kamani, showing a different vulnerability, because I've always been transparent, but I was out of that. So I was talking kind of at an arm's length and talking in past tense, but we are getting ready to go on a journey, as I have some huge life events happening, and we're going to talk about the why, or we're going to talk about the how behind the what. So before I was talking about the why, like, why did I get to this place where I'm burned out? Why, fill in the blank. And those are what my initial videos were discussing. Now we're going to talk about how.
Yeah,
so how are we getting ready to move, to that next, I guess, little chapter? And I am going to get on Instagram because I do have a lot of pictures that I want to share. And just subscribe to my channel. I'm getting ready to put, so if you're watching from the future, hey, but I'm going to put a mailing list on there because we're getting ready to switch up some things. I am, as I call myself, a purveyor of joy, and we're getting ready to see what life looks like, on the other side of joy. So I'm very excited about that, and have some resources. Yes, Dr. Kamani, I see the look. I will get back into coaching, but before we get there, there's some other things that I need to do as part of my next iteration of healing and evolving that we are going to do together. So this is not going to be past tense. Like, we are, I'm going to be uncomfortable.
Well, I'm going to quote Glamazini again because she talked about healing out loud.
Mhm.
And I think that's what you're talking about. That's what
Yeah.
you're doing on your channel. That's what I'm doing on my channel. That's what Marissa's doing. That's what
Mhm.
Colette. So many of us are doing this healing out loud because what we realize is that I'm a private person. People are like, you're private, girl. Before all this, I never would have been on social media. But I'm out here because
Yeah.
I know that by sharing my story, I'm helping other Black women. And I hear
Mhm.
that from you as well. So I'm going to read the community chat and then I'm going to close it down. And I'll put April's information and Shauna's information in the description section. Okay. So people are saying, glad to be here. Hello. Your channel is helping me a lot. I'm transitioning out of a very draining job. I'm sorry. Well, I'm sorry that's a draining job. I'm happy that you're transitioning out. I can't afford to be without a job right now. So I'm looking for a new one, but I'm being very strategic. Yes. So that's something we talked about in the Job Liberation Virtual Summit, particularly with Dr. Roche Brown, talking about creating your exit plan based upon when you want to transition out. Okay. So hopefully you can check out the replay. Hello from Ohio. Hello. Hello from North Carolina. I know your niche is Black women, but I'm so happy I found your channel. It provides great information and it's helping heal and be more informed. Well, thank you so much for tuning in. I love that. Sunday is fun day. Hello from Washington. Yep, heard that one. Question, can you expand on being overqualified? Do one of you want to talk about that? Okay, both of you. Yes. Okay, go, Shauna.
I was like, yes, I can. Absolutely. So I remember I had a period where I was working a job. It was a job where I'd made the most money that I made in my career. It was also doing something that I had never had any experience in, but it was more like, hey, I think you can do this job. I think you have the skill set to be able to do this job. And so I took the job and I ended up making a lot of money as a result. It ended up being a job where I made a pretty good salary. I experienced a lot of sexism, a lot of prejudice, and it just ended up not being a good fit for me. So left the job. And I was heartbroken because I never made that much money before. I've been an artist for most of my life. So I've been unemployed. I've been broke. I knew not having a job was not the issue. It was, I was in that income bracket and now I'm not anymore. And now I got to go back to where I came from. So that was the issue. So through that year, I ended up taking these part-time jobs. I always had these small little part-time jobs that I took on. And two of them coincidentally were in the cycling industry here in Los Angeles. And they were both of them were minimum wage jobs, retail, customer facing jobs. And I felt like, hey, I'm from the South. I'm a happy Black girl. Put me in customer service. I'll write the book on customer service. Like that, you ain't got to teach me customer service. Number one, I'm happy. Number two, I'm Black. We talking about cycling. I got stories for days about riding my bike, right? And then I realized that every time I would show up to work in one of the particular jobs, I was too happy.
Oh, too happy.
I had managers who could not wrap their brains around the fact that I loved getting on my bike at 4:30 in the morning to ride my bike to work, to be at work by 6 a.m., to work a full shift and then ride my bike home. Now, anybody who rides bikes, the only thing that's weird about that is maybe the time of the day. But to ride 25 miles, we do that for fun on Saturday mornings. So the fact that I had this experience where I got to ride my bike every morning to come to work, I was like, okay, yeah, put me in the morning shift. There's no problem. I have no problems that's great, sure. But I noticed that my colleague, my managers were treating me as if like, why are you so happy? And I'm like, I'm sorry, do you not know what it means to ride a bike? Don't we ride bikes together? And even if we don't ride bikes together, we ride bikes, and riding bikes, it makes you happy. It's, you know, we drink coffee after the bike ride because we don't need it on the bike ride. So there's that. I had so many managers, so many superiors, so supervisors, managers, owners that treated me as if I had committed a felony for providing excellent customer service. Hey, Jim, oat latte, right? Yeah, how you doing? What's going on at work while I'm making the latte? Okay, I can't wait to see you tomorrow. All right, see you tomorrow. Jim, how you doing? You gonna get that use? Oh, you're getting something different? Oh, you want talking like it's nothing? Because honestly, this particular job, it was nothing. It was a zone of excellence for me. Talking to people about coffee, like I don't really care that much about coffee, but I can talk to anybody. I ain't never met a stranger. So in terms of being overqualified for a particular retail job in the coffee industry or in the cycling industry, oh yeah. I mean, basically you're asking me to be myself, but get paid for it. Okay, easy. Matter of fact, I get to do this. This is great. I get to do it. But I had managers and supervisors and higher ups who, over time, as I would tell this story to my friends, to my family members, they would say the word envy. They would use the word jealousy. Maybe they're envious of you, Shauna. Maybe they're jealous of you because it's so easy for you to just naturally relate to people. You're likable. You're this, you're that. And I'm like, yeah, I am. But why am I feeling like I'm being punished for it? And in
they're not you.
And what I ended up realizing is that obviously this wasn't going to be a career. But that didn't mean that I needed to treat it as if I knew that it wasn't going to be a career. What it meant was that every day I show up, I'm going to give my best. And when I leave, I'm not taking the job with me. When I go home, I'm going to go back to my life. And when I come to work, I'm going to do my job. And so to have an employee that was happy to do their job, even though I knew that it was a job that I was overqualified for. I knew in terms of my education, my aptitude, my knowledge, my skills, all of that. Yeah, off the charts, overqualified for it. But I knew that as I was looking for work, that I could easily go into this industry or go into this industry. It wasn't going to be too much of a stretch for me. But then I realized that I was also working with insecurities.
Boom. Yes.
I was working with people who didn't know themselves. This is why I love being a Black woman. This is the number one reason why I love being a Black woman, because I get to keep doing the work of loving myself. And so while there's this society that says, oh, well, things should be a certain way and things should operate this way, I'm operating in a society that was never geared towards me. True. It was never considerate of me and my wellness. And so what do I get to do? I get to scoot around that and wellness.
Yes. I'm not seeking external validation from you because I recognize that you are deeply insecure. Because if you don't value what I'm doing, what I'm bringing to the table, then there's something wrong with you. And I hope that Black women can hear what you were saying about that insecurity of so many people we work around. And then we might start self-gaslighting ourselves, like Apryl talked about, like, is it me? What did I do? Like you said, you talk to your family, like, is it me? Girl, no. And you're never going to figure it out because it's insecure people, right? Right. So I love that. That. What about for you, Apryl?
You know what? That made me think of something that my mother used to say. Like, why do you care so much about impressing people that you don't even like? Now, she wasn't saying that to me because I'm big on internal validation, but she used to say that in the household. Okay. Now for me, overqualification is not necessarily limited to like degrees in education, because to be in my role, we all have to have, certain degrees, and certain skill sets. So, but if we consider that Black women are the workhorses, again, Kamani, remember, used to say the mules, but the mules stop when they're ready. Like workhorses will go until, they're injured or they just drop dead.
Mm-hmm.
So Black women are the workhorses. Black women, even though we live in a patriarchal society, our Black culture is very, very matriarchal. Okay, it is led by women. Our households have, big mama, or, that one auntie, or even you as a mother. Okay, so we've got that. We've got the fact that we are expected to work harder. We are expected to be better. We're expected to be as close to perfect as possible.
Mm-hmm.
I could go on and on and on. Now we're in with Tristan from Colorado, right? And here's the thing, we on the job, and I know for me, I got paid exponentially more than some of the, mediocre Tristan from Colorado. But the fact that he can't touch my abilities, he can't do what I can, and to keep it a buck, the department can't function without me. It would collapse if I removed myself. And that was something that I kind of held on to. That is what, I liked feeling needed to my own, detriment. I can admit that now, but, before I didn't understand that was what was happening. So the fact that I come with all of this knowledge, skills, ability, magic, just being all the things that are Black women, I'm already overqualified. You can't pay me enough money for my worth. But I'm a staunch negotiator for my pay. So we're going to come to an agreeable number. But even if you think about that, you got Tristan from Colorado who applied for the job because maybe one of the bullet points that he met, we as Black women need to meet every bullet point.
Girl.
And we need to be that last bullet point and all other ad hoc or whatever tasks.
Yes.
So
yes.
we are inherently overqualified. Now, for some people, yes, we have degrees, or we have all of this work experience and this strong skill set, and maybe we are underemployed. But to me, like, overqualification is just working amongst mediocre people who can't touch what I can do. They can't touch it.
Girl, mediocre at best, and those who get their jobs based upon who they know. And I think a lot of us have had that experience. And just growing up, my parents always told me that I'm going to have to work twice as hard to get half as much. And I knew that. I knew I had to overperform all the time. And no, people might act like they appreciate it. No, they send you messages that they're threatened by you and all the other kind of stuff. But I think so many of us have had that message that we overperform, but it's when do we turn it off, and when do we have that boundary that we need joy too? And I think that's when the disconnect happens, right? Okay. Wow, I'm not meant to work for other people. They like that we said that. I can relate to both guests. Thank you for sharing. Somatic healing is powerful. Shauna, you are preaching to me. Oh, listen to this. Shauna, do you do one-to-one sessions?
One-to-one sessions in what? And yes.
Coaching, consulting. Can you clarify what it is? The person who asked that question, please. I was put on this earth to be, and I'll put Shauna's information description section too, so you can reach out to her. Okay. I was put on this earth to be a happy Black woman. Mic drop. I'm following Psycho Bay, fiercely protective with joy. Shauna didn't fit their narrative about Black women. She was already a unicorn, Black woman riding a bike that far and being pleasant throughout the day. Shauna didn't. Yeah. Okay. Shauna, what resources would you recommend to help Black women know herself and be more confident in herself?
Woo, call me, girl. That's all I can say. You know what? So I'll give an example. I love salsa dancing, right? And here in America, here in this funky ass country, America.
That's how you really feel, Shauna.
Right. I will. Sure. We this is a brave space, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. I remember when I got into salsa dancing. Oh my God, it's such a sexy, it's an alluring dance. It's so much fun. You can do it with your friends. You can go out on a date and do it. The the core of salsa dancing is that you have a lead and a follow. Traditionally, lead and a follow is the man is leading, the woman is following, right? Mm-hmm. But we're in a different time now where women can lead and men can follow, and all things in between. And we're in a great place in society. However, when I first started dancing, I fell in love. I was introduced to salsa dancing in Pittsburgh, and I learned it in Philly. And I lived in Philly for 10 years and would go up and down the East Coast salsa dancing with my friends, right? So as I'm learning salsa dancing, I realized that, like, you know, as we talked about earlier, I'm a brick house, been one ever since I came out the womb, right? So there's certain dances where I felt like men wanted to dance with me because it meant that they could get close to my body. I wasn't really for that. But the ones where I could show my footwork, where I could really like show you that I know what it's hitting on, like that's that. There were many, many times when as I was growing as a budding salsetta, that I never got caught up in the gossip. I never got caught up in the, you know, so who's your teacher, who's your coach, and who are you dancing with, and what team are you on, and all of the, you know, the things around that. Thankfully, I never got caught up in it because I was never the cool kid. I was never the cool one, right? And it's an interesting dynamic, because when you think about salsa, when you think about Latin dance, when you think about it, you might picture somebody that looks like all three of us, especially when you think about it more broadly in an international aspect. But here in this funky country of America, okay, in this funky ass country of America, where racism is served for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, racism and patriarchy is served for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. When I show up on the dance floor, it's, no, we don't dance with her. We don't dance with her. But if that sexy, sultry one comes on, yeah, I'm grabbing her and I'm grabbing everything about her. And I hated it. I hated it. I hated feeling like a piece of meat. I was already feeling like a piece of meat at work. I was already feeling like a piece of meat in relationships. And then I come to this dance floor and nobody wants to dance with me in the beginning. But then when the real sexy part of the real sexy dances come on, all of a sudden I got a line of men want to dance with me and rub all over my body. Not into it, not interested. But I became a really good dancer. Don't play with me when it comes to my Latin dance, okay? I will show you how the ancestors wanted it done. All right. So, and part of that is because nobody was checking for me. They were only checking for me in the hypersexualized part of it. I was never distracted by the gossipy, the whose studio are you a part of, and whose team are you dancing with, and are you going to go out this night? Are you going to do that? I was never a part of that because I was never the cool kid in that way. And so because of me being ostracized, well, not intentionally, maybe it was intentional, I don't know, but me not being a part of the cool crowd, I was able to split right through and learn the core, learn the foundation, learn the history, the art, the culture, the why of why people that look like me have historically been set up to be the grand traditionalist of this art form, right? So again, I love dancing. I know right now that if I have to go on a plane, go take a flight anywhere, I can find my Latin dance community and I can find lifelong friends, all because I know how to dance and I know how to act whenever I go out to a new community and things like that. Anyway, so one of the benefits, I feel like I'm losing the question because I got so excited about telling the story. But one of the benefits I would say is that you kind of accelerate, you kind of do this quantum leaping of becoming excellent at something or becoming attuned to something when you've been ostracized in the more traditional aspects. So here you are thinking, oh, it's supposed to be like this, and here's the norm, and here's that. When in reality, maybe you were born to be exceptional. Maybe you were born to be great. And maybe at this time in this plane, at this time in society, at this time when the earth is rotating on the axis of the stars in Aquarius or whatever the case may be, maybe right now your spirit was put into the body of a Black woman, and you were put here in America. And now, because we're in 2024, you got to work a corporate job because, yeah, men and women have equal rights or somewhat like that. So, yeah, you got to work now. You're not going to be, whatever the case may be. But maybe you're not meant to be regular degular. Maybe you're meant to cut through all of the regular degular bullshit of corporate America and learn those fundamental quantum lessons to then accelerate further. I know I trust. I don't think of myself as extroverted. I don't think of myself, because I love being at home and being by myself. But I have to accept that I do really good when I'm around other people. And other people feel comfortable around me. Okay. So that's just, but that's more of a skill. It's not a talent, right?
Well, so, can I say something, Shauna?
Sure.
I think what it is, you talked about authenticity, right?
Yeah.
I think what it is that you speak with so much conviction and knowing of yourself and commitment that people are drawn to you, right? So it's not that you're trying to get people to engage with you. People are drawn to you.
Yeah, because I'm a fierce advocate of my happiness. Again, when you mess with my happiness, I'm ready to fight. I'm ready to leave. I'm ready to walk away. I get really anxious because what do I have in this life if I don't have my peace? What do I have in this lifetime? In this particular lifetime that we live in, we got all this technology. We have all of these opportunities, but we also have some really horrible things that are happening to people that look like us, that exist on this planet, that share our identities. So right now, with all of the privileges that I have to say to myself, what am I willing to go to the mat for? And for me, it's my happiness. Yeah. Because my happiness is where my peace is going to be. I know that once I leave that dance floor, or once I get off the bike, or once I finish singing or performing or going to that jam session, or whatever the things that I enjoy doing, having a wonderful conversation with a group of people and talking about life and love and thriving and whatever the case may be. Once I'm done doing that, then where am I? Then who am I? No, I'm peaceful. I'm Shauna. And with that peace, I can create a whole bunch of things. I can't create in chaos. I'm not the artist that can create in chaos. I can create from peace. And I know that women like us, specifically disenfranchised Black women, if we go a little further, dark-skinned Black women, we deserve to understand what our humanity is. We deserve it. We deserve it. Ease, flow, luxury, pleasure. We deserve it. Not because, like I said, not because we're Black, not because we're women, but because we're human beings. Yeah. And I think back to your point, Dr. Kamani, at the other jobs where I talked about where we had the insecurities, there are just so many people that don't share our identities, who don't know that they get to experience joy, that they don't have to fall into the bureaucratic systems that are put into place to keep us down or to keep us subjugated. We don't have to exist like that. You can make the choice within yourself any given day when you see some stuff that just don't make sense. You have to just say to yourself, maybe I'm not supposed to be here. Right. Maybe it's that I'm not supposed to be here. Let me tap into something that I really enjoy doing and seeing if there's something there. Yeah. Every single time in my years and my 4 decades of being on this earth, every single time I have done that, I have made more money. I have had more friends. I have moved into better neighborhoods. I've lost more weight, or I've gained more weight. Whatever it was something that was beneficial. I ate better. I exercised. I drank more water. I did all the things that as a human being, I'm supposed to do to care for myself, to live a life of abundance, live a life of endurance. And so it really, like, my story is I love singing, dancing, crocheting. Like, I like what I like, but it is so important that you just figure out what it is that you like and go try it. Put a date on your calendar. Put a date on your calendar and go do it. Yes.
So Shauna, in terms of resources, number one, what I think I'm hearing you say is that you need to attend to your internal resources. So identify what brings you joy, what brings you peace, and cultivate that and be intentional and fierce and protective of that, right? So it's not that you go read this book or you do these other things, but you nurture and you be truthful to yourself, right?
Don't get me wrong. I mean, there is some curiosity in a book. You can certainly read. You can have a library of books. Please find me on Goodreads. I have a whole library of books that I've read for, the past 15, 20 years that I've enjoyed reading. But those are more reminders. They're not, I'm not learning something new. I'm being reminded of how I'm supposed to live as a human being.
Yes.
And
yes.
Yeah. So
we value our humanity.
Right. Again, it's not about, sometimes it's not, I think everything that you are sharing, Dr. Kimani, and all of the work that you're doing, you are reminding us. You're not teaching us something brand new. You're reminding us. And how beautiful it is that you are sharing your story, that you're sharing your story, that we have a space virtually on top of that to be able to share stories of what we need to be reminded. We already know it, but somewhere along the way we tucked it and we tucked it and we tucked it, and maybe we tucked it so far that it died in the previous generation, or it died 2-3 generations before. Who knows? But it's up to us, if we have the privilege, if we have the choice, if we have the freedom, if we have
the courage,
to just, there it is.
Yeah.
There it is. So put a date on the calendar. Try something new. Try something. Now for me, maybe it's not, trying out a new salsa club. Now I'm a plant mom. I can't stop buying plants now. And I never thought that I had a green thumb. I'm trying to have a green thumb now. I'm trying to be a plant mom. So I'm going to always be curious. ABC, always be curious. Maybe do something with that, Dr. Kimani. I don't know. But
no, that's for you. Okay. That's for you to do something with that. Because I'm telling you, Shauna, they're asking in the chat for you to.
But yeah.
Okay. So that is for you. That the ABC, all of these things, that is for you, sis. Okay, because they're asking, how do we sign up for one-to-one sessions with you? Yes, they agree about the funky egg country, right? They said you need to provide one-to-one life coaching or empowerment sessions. Fierce protector over self-peace. Wow, thank you for that, Shauna. You dropped gems. I too want to be a fierce about my happiness, pleasure over pain, peace over pain. Nothing to it but to try it and see what we like and what we don't.
Just try
Shauna L. Howard, always be curious. Girl, they telling you right now, you take ABC and all of that, okay? And they're gonna be reaching out to you, okay?
I love it.
Yes. And then I also see, thank you so much. I would recommend Welcome to Your Queendom by Dr. Kimani. So that is the digital queendom, the digital fillable workbook that Apryl talked about. So that is the workbook that I created for myself as a roadmap, because when I was at the toxic job, I was so disconnected from myself. I could not think straight, right? I couldn't figure out who should be in my circle, what's going on. I could not figure it out. So the Welcome to Your Queendom digital fillable workbook is a way for you to go through the prompts on your own pace and really get your mind together so you can get the exit plan together, okay? So that'll be in the description section too. Okay, ladies, I know we're a little over, but this was so rich. Yes.
Hold on. So there's Shauna, you are a natural confidence coach. There's been people that I've seen where they're like, oh, I'm a confidence coach. And I'm like, what does that mean? I now know what it truly means. I don't know if they are a confidence coach, but that's all I kept thinking about. Is like, this lady is a confidence coach. Like, I finally have met one. So yeah, you should embrace that.
I appreciate it. I one thing that I can, maybe the confidence is because I love chasing men around Southern California on a bike. I don't know what it is. Maybe that's, what I'm doing in my 40s now. No, I don't know. Maybe it's the fact that I'm not looking for appreciation. I'm not looking for validation, because I don't know. And I think that when we take so much of that attention off of what it should be and then just kind of create what it could be, I mean, that's the sexy part of living that I think all three of us have probably gotten to in our lives, where we get to explore the sexiness of just creating it.
Yeah.
I don't know, Dr. Kamani, maybe I'll have some lessons with you or something. We'll have to check that.
That's what I think is important. And what I appreciate too, Apryl, is by you doing that, by me pouring into Shauna, we're both pouring into Shauna. And I want Black women to see this happen in action, right? Because we have heard so many different examples. Oh, Black women, you can't trust them, or Black women, da-da-da. And I don't receive that, right? I might have had some negative experiences with Black women. The vast majority of positive experiences from Black women. Okay, Black women have uplifted me. I'm a Spelman alum. I believe in sisterhood, right? So Shauna, we're pouring into you, right? And what we're saying to you is people are radiate. They can feel your energy and they want this, right? Because you are not only saying it, you are living by example, right? You're showing Black women, not only is this possible, just like when they see me on YouTube and I'm like, you can leave and do well, right? So they see me, they're like, oh, I can, right? They see you and they're like, oh my God, I can connect to joy. And this is what it looks like, right? So I just invite you to just sit with that. And as I tell my clients all the time, just let that marinate, just let it marinate, right? You may not have the ideas now, but people are really connected to that, okay? So I just want you to know that. And everyone, you can connect to Apryl and Shauna and everything's in the description section. I know we're super over. Any last words? So, as we're winding down. So Shauna, any last words before we end? And then Apryl, any last words? And then we're gonna wind it down.
I guess number one, thank you for inviting me to come on. I had my little piece of paper ready to talk about all the toxic jobs that I had, and I was gonna rat them out. I'm telling you, I was like, and another thing, I was ready for it. But obviously, I was prepared in case it was gonna go that way. I just want you to know, Dr. Kamani, I was ready.
Yes.
But I'm glad that wasn't. I'm glad that wasn't it. Thank you for seeing in me something that was of value to what you provide to the universe. As I told you when we first started talking about your work, I was like, wait, you do what? And you talk to who? And that's your job? You goddess, you. Like, oh my God. It's so needed. It's absolutely needed. So understanding that, number one, and then seeing that you saw something in me to be able to share my story, to be able to share my experiences. I can talk forever and ever about toxic jobs. Again, I had the paper ready to go off, but instead of talking about the toxicity, I love leaning into the joy. I love leaning into the pleasure, leaning into the ease and the flow of what it's like to be a Black woman, and all of the things that I have learned in this lifetime about what I get to experience as a result of the toxicity that I've experienced. I could be negative, I could be sour about it, or I could just thrive. And I like it better on the thriving side. So
it's so much better.
All of my information is in the chat. Please reach out to me however I can be of service. I would love to share what I've learned in life. Thank you for seeing it in me to be able to come on your platform and share my stories.
Absolutely. So you are an embodiment. Apryl's an embodiment. I am an embodiment of post-traumatic growth. So we have gone through trauma, and because of the trauma, we have risen higher, right? And that is possible with the right supports, right? Knowing your worth, that is possible. So Apryl, any last words you want to share with the audience?
Yeah, I do. And this was something I've been asked a lot of questions that have stuck with me, just during my own journey and healing journey. But for those of you who may think like, it seems so unattainable. Like you believe that what you're seeing between the three of us, you believe that can happen to you, but it just seems so like distant and so far away. And what I would would suggest doing, if you are wondering, like, where do I even start? I want you to move through life asking yourself this question. If this were a friend of mine, what would I tell her? So not only would you speak the way that probably, I know I did, a lot of negative self-speak. Would you say that to someone who came to you in that position? Would you tell people that they are unremarkable, or there's nothing unique about them, or, you know, again, some of the ways that we move through life. So if you are wondering, where can I start? You can start right now by just that little bitty thing of reminding yourself to ask if this was my friend, because many times we're not friends to ourselves. Like, I am my own best friend.
Yes.
I've always been giving myself like external validation. But when you get on the other side of this thing, it's not like in a negative way. It is now like I cheer myself on, I validate myself, and I move through life. Like, okay, I love being a Black woman.
I do too.
I love myself. I love my job, like just everything around me. I celebrate myself. I am my own hype woman. And the way that you can get there is by befriending yourself. And how do you befriend yourself? It's just interact with yourself and ask yourself that question. How would I behave, or what would I say, or what would I do?
Yes. Love on yourself. Love on yourself, like yourself, right? Take care of yourself.
Yes.
One of my neighbors used to say, do you talk to your dog that way? Talk to yourself the way you talk to your dog.
Well, some people are mean to animals.
Some people are mean. But I have talked.
I are so loving to their pets. Yeah.
I have spoke lovingly. Oh, you're so cute. Oh, who's a good girl? Oh, you're the cutest, the sweetest. Do that in the mirror sometime.
Ooh, I love that. That's a great takeaway. Okay, just a few more comments. This was so empowering. Thank you all. This was so uplifting. Please hit the like button. Yes. So give us a thumbs up. Please hit the like button. This discussion was so encouraging, ladies. Exactly what I needed to hear. Awesome. I'm my own hype woman. Yes. Okay. Yes. Self-love. So everyone, thank you so much for watching. I know we went over, but this was a very powerful conversation. And as I said, I will put Shauna's information and Apryl's information description section. If you have not already been to the live version of the Job Liberation Virtual Summit for Black Women, get the replay, okay? So it helps to prepare you so you can get ready, be ready, okay? So everyone, again, thumbs up. Share this video with at least 2 other Black women. If you haven't already subscribed to my channel, please do so. And guess what? Tomorrow I'll be on again. So tomorrow I have a panel with my Spellman sisters talking about different ways that we've responded to being in a toxic job. Some of us have left, some of us choose to stay, and it's all in between, okay? So please tune into that conversation, because again, I really want my channel to be a space for Black women, no matter where you are on that continuum. I'm not telling or convincing anybody to leave a job, okay? That's up to you, okay? But I want to provide you with the support and the resources. So tune in tomorrow. We're going to be 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Central, and 4 p.m. Pacific time tomorrow. Okay, so see you all tomorrow. Take care, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Stay on.
Okay.
Bye, everybody.